Welcome once again, where we're educating consumers of real estate services together with property professionals, either being long in the field or just fairly started. We're talking fixtures and fittings here. When the seller sells the property, he guarantees that the fixtures and fittings are fully paid or will be fully paid by the time the property registers. Sometimes sellers have things like stoves and other fittings, built-in cupboards, where they made a loan either from i.e. Builders Warehouse or any other furniture store, and they've installed these things which are now permanent fixtures on the property, and they are still owing. So the new buyer does not want to have any embarrassment that by the time they stay, only to find that the previous owner has not paid certain things. Okay, so this saves and protects the buyer, saying that the owner says everything is paid or will be fully paid. The risk, this is very important. The risk of the property will always pass on registration. Once the property is registered, the risk is now for the new owner. Okay. Now, in order to make the agreement to be fair, when the buyer is seeking early occupation, then according to this agreement, it's been done in such a way that it also protects the seller, that the risk will now pass on the purchaser upon date of occupation. Okay, so that he takes care of the property. If he needs to insure the property, let it be so. Obviously the owner will also have to make sure that he does not necessarily cancel his insurance policies and all that pertaining to the house. But the agent can always negotiate in such a way that the buyer becomes responsible, for such payments. Right, on top of that, we also have rates and taxes. You're taking occupation, so that means you assume that the property is yours because you know that the property is going to register. Therefore, it is fair that the rates and taxes, levies that are charged upon you, the person who's taking occupation, should pay for them. Otherwise, if you're not happy, take it easy, wait for registration when you're going to start paying everything when the property is in your name. All right, transfer. Right, all the cost of transfer are paid by the buyer. The seller appoints the attorney, and in some cases, in some instances, the seller does not know a conveyancer. So instead, the agent will give him probably about 3, and then the seller will choose, which conveyancer he will use. Okay, obviously the agent will guide him how these people work, and such things. But if the seller has one, the seller must use his own conveyancer because it is his right to choose a conveyancer. Okay, and then also when the conveyancer calls the parties, meaning calls the seller and the buyer to come sign, the buyer and the seller must do so upon being requested to do so in order to fulfill the seamless transfer of the property. Now we also are discussing occupation. Occupation, very straightforward. Don't complicate it. It's very, very simple. You want to move in, make sure that all the transfer fees are paid. Make sure the deposit is paid. Make sure that the guarantees are being issued. Make sure that the bond and transfer fees are signed and paid. And then, if the occupational rent has not been stated, normally we will use 1%. Okay, if it's $1 million, 1% would be 10,000. Otherwise, the owner can always say he wants whatever, 9,000, 8,000, or 12,000, and then the negotiations will start there, and then the buyer would also say, okay, I'm comfortable with that, or otherwise, no, you know what, I'm not comfortable, that's too expensive, I'll rather wait until the property is registered in my name. Okay, but sometimes people need to move in simply because probably bought a property and you want to move in January because the kids are going to school and all such things. So it is fair that when you take occupation, you assume responsibility of the property as if the property was now in your name, from taking care of the property, maintaining the gardens, all those kind of things, what the current owner would have done. Okay, now we have suspensive conditions. Suspensive conditions are very straightforward. A buyer will buy a property provided he gets finance from the bank within a 21-day period. Failing which, the estate agents and the seller will always deduce whether this is a genuine buyer. Probably there was a delay from the bank and they can unilaterally extend the period, the given period, okay, to probably a further 60 days, You don't have to make it 60 days. You can, extend it for the next 10 days or so, just to deduce if whether the buyer is really getting the finance or not. And where the buyer is being declined by the bank, why do you want to extend the period? He's been declined. So move on, get the seller another buyer who is willing and able. Now, these conditions shall be deemed to have been fulfilled. Right, upon the bank giving a grant, it means the suspensive condition has been fulfilled. Okay. Now, the other suspensive condition could be where the purchaser is saying, I'm buying this property subject to me selling my house. So this house will be called a second property within a period of 60 days. Okay. So from the time the offer has been accepted, the purchaser must start immediately to market the second property. And it will be easier if everything's been done by one conveyancer, to get to know which transaction it's where. All right. And all these suspensive conditions could be waived by the buyer at any time. Where buyer says, I'm looking for finance, he can easily say, you know what, I'm no longer looking for finance, I'll pay cash. And then where the buyer says, I'm buying this property subject to me selling the second property, can say, you know what, I'm no longer selling my second property, the bank is willing to give me finance, or you know what, I'll just pay this property cash. All right. Thank you guys. See you again next time. Bye.